What's up, fitness family? Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Wherever you're at in your day, I'm your host, Adrian Conway. Welcome to another episode of the True Fitness Podcast. Today, we are playing catch up. I have been vacant all summer long with good reason. I have a family who is not in school, and so I'm looking to seize every moment and opportunity to spend with them and create the memories and spend the time that I know that I will never get back. Um, and I don't know if you do this, if you're a parent, but I would suggest that you do, is that you treat every summer as if it is a countdown. And basically, we get 18 of them with each child before some major life changes are likely to happen. Now, I'm not saying that my kids will leave the house immediately when they're 18, but I will be raising them in such a way that they feel like they've got the freedom and the opportunity and the desire to do so. As much as my wife probably won't be a fan of that, but I want to equip them to be completely independent and ready to thrive at that time. But all this builds an urgency for me as a father. And I think that it's really important. And as Coach Conway, who that's me, I would be remiss if I didn't encourage you to have the same type of mindset, to understand that whatever you can do financially, whatever you can do from a career perspective, to see the time with your children as the most important time and the time that you cannot earn back. I know a lot of us are focused on the financial reward, the perhaps the securities, perhaps some in ways we would deem the necessities of life, and we put that ahead of the quality time that we're steadily and unceasingly being stripped from every day with our spouse, with our kids. This time that we have here is finite. And I want you to understand you're never going to look back on your time and you're going to wish, man, I just would have, I should have worked a little bit more. So that's Coach Conway coming at you with a random rant to start the kickoff of this episode. Welcome back after a long summer. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that we were ready to get back into some normalcy, but I wanted to kick this off with a discussion about the CrossFit Games 2025, a season like no other. And I say that because, of course, we're in the middle of CrossFit trying to sell to some new buyers. We have no idea what's going to happen. I have no insider insight. Don't even pay particular attention to what too many other people are saying out in our space, because none of it matters until something's official. But I will say that coming off of last year, losing Lazar at the CrossFit Games, people yelling for Dave Castro's head in regards to his job, and specifically his job over the CrossFit Games as a director of sport. There were people who chose to sit out this season. There were people within the community who are disgruntled. They're upset about the price increases from the affiliates. They dropped their affiliate. They dropped their CrossFit within the title. They decide not to play in the open. We've had a very low sign up and turnout for the 2025 season in regards to the CrossFit Open. And there were so many things that happened that, rightfully so, for some, they felt like that needed to happen. And I'm not here to soapbox and say, hey, look at where we're at without you. But I am here to say that the train doesn't stop rolling. And it's because, of course, we're much greater than the sport of CrossFit in regards to the CrossFit Games. And we're so much even greater than CrossFit HQ. If you've been a day one, or if you've been an OG of sorts, or even if you're new to this CrossFit family that we've got globally, and you find yourself being and continually being unwavering to the methodology and the purpose of this all, I know that you just stayed with us all along. And I bring up all of this to say that there were a lot of unknowns going into this CrossFit Games. The qualification process was a little hit or miss. There were a lot of things that seemed like we were last minute deciding, even into the turn of the new year, with NorCal Classic becoming a qualifier, with different ways to get to the CrossFit Games. It was very hard to tell a clean story. And it was also hard to see who was really going to show up and how the fans were going to show up at the CrossFit Games. I will say that for me personally, the moment that I got any type of opportunity to be tied to the CrossFit Games this year, I jumped at it. I didn't ask how much money would I make. I didn't ask what the opportunity would entail. I wanted to be someone who tried to stand in during this, what I would consider a gap year, where we really were unsure about the opinions of many, the public opinions of most, and where we were going to go after this year. I'm going to say this without jumping into too much detail. The games were programmed perfectly for what we needed. The athletes showed up giving their all, just like we needed. The crowd who showed up, the affiliates and the coaches who showed up to the coaches conference, to the competition side, and even to just simply spectating, everybody showed up like we needed. And I say we needed in a way that means that we wanted to encourage and inspire. And I believe that we did that. That first weekend in August to me will be one that we look back on this year. And I don't want to make it like bigger than it is, but I think it's a really big deal. And I think that a lot of us might not recognize how big a deal that is until we continue to win back some of the doubters. And I say win back because I know there's a lot of us whom are within the space and never left. And you might feel a little bit jaded. You might feel a little bit annoyed with. You might feel a little bit entitled that you stuck it out, that you continue to stick it out, that you think things are going in a great direction. And hey, I never left. I'm one of those. I never left. I'm not excluding myself to make a point. I'm going to do it and make change that I feel like we should do from right here, because I feel like that's where we're able to actually elicit changes from within a thing, not removing ourselves and then hoping that a threat or a big name that's absent is going to change a thing, because it's not. And this podcast episode is the CrossFit Games 2025, why we never left, because the real ones understand that regardless of who shows up, who signs up, the games will be played. You see, CrossFit as a sport, when we talk about the games, is a test to find the fittest on earth. Well, why can we call ourselves the fittest on earth? Well, it's simply because we invite any and every person. If you've got $25 and you've got a handheld device of some sort, you can say your name into, you've got some really simple setup, structure, space, a pull-up rig, a med ball, a rower, and a barbell, a dumbbell. Again, the idea here is to paint a picture that everyone can play this if you want to. We invite the masses. If you choose not to sign up, you would choose not to be included in the discussion. So if you want to say that you're the fittest on earth or one of the fittest on earth, get your butt into the open. And then you're all welcome to play as we see fit. Now, our test is broad, general, and inclusive. We test a multitude of modalities in a variety of energy systems. And of course, it's CrossFit. When people show up to the CrossFit Games, it doesn't matter what sponsors they have. It doesn't matter how many followers they have on Instagram or Facebook or wherever people are relevant. TikTok, I don't know. But none of that actually matters. Because the people who tune in the most and who are engaged the most, who buy the most tickets, are the people who are personally rooting for the people. So this branches far and beyond someone's social influence on social media. This includes people that are in their affiliate, if they're engaged in an affiliate. This includes people from their immediate family, from their distant family, from their friends, from their distant friends. Some of them show up as doubters as much as they are haters, as much as they are fans. From their church, from their other out of sport activities, right? Like, you get the idea. From their work. People show up for whoever shows up. Now, my thing about the entertainment value is that when we get athletes coming up through the space, and this is part of my job as color commentary, Chase's job is play-by-play, is that we portray what's happening on the field and telling the story of the athletes. I'm going to tell you guys something. When athletes show up who came from an affiliate, that are close to the affiliate, that have a job, part-time or full-time, outside of our space, it actually enriches the story. It actually makes them more relatable. It actually makes people bigger fans than them, than if they're just full-time exercisers. This might not be something that a lot of people want to hear. It's truth. When people hear about, man, this person's a CrossFit coach, they coach 8 hours a week, they do this, they do that, they're a firefighter, they hold down a full-time job as a chiropractor, or they're in the middle of getting their doctorate degree as a psychologist, or whatever you're going to be, major in psychology, doctor of psychology, I don't know. When these things are being pursued and then they make it to the CrossFit Games, even if they don't have 1 million followers, even if they don't have 100,000 followers, it's irrelevant. Because what happens when you step onto the floor of competition is that you go as hard as you can, you lift as heavy as you can, and you move as fast as physically possible. The environment dictates that. The other athletes dictate that. The same reason, folks, that the CrossFit test didn't have to be fancy and doesn't have to be fancy. The amount of people who are complaining about the program not being fancy or impressive is small to me. Really, like I haven't received much feedback when we talk about the programming that is disappointed because they didn't see something fancy. Again, to those who are spending the money on this community, in this community, who go to affiliates in this community, who tune into all the YouTube shows and all the things, they love how relatable the test was because they know how much those athletes had to suffer. They know how the loads felt. They know how the movements are, and they can go apply them in the CrossFit gym next week. And a lot of gyms did. So I think there's a beauty in the simplicity of the test. This episode is titled Why We Never Left, because the only people that matter are those who show up. I've said this in a CrossFit podcast recently, that not to exclude people, because let me tell you, I'll be the first one that when people come back after this year hiatus and they decide they're ready or willing or able, we're going to welcome them back. I'll welcome them back. I'll have them for an interview. I will highlight them all the same when I get an opportunity to in any sport, in any competition. But the people who showed up in 2025, to me, will have a special place because, again, I refer to it as the gap year. A year of uncertainty, a year of who would show up and how will they show up. The fans who showed up probably will never forget. In my opinion, and in my hopes, that's the least attended CrossFit Games that we have in the remainder of our existence. But there was something special about this revival of sorts that took place there. Because once we closed the door on the 2024 CrossFit Games, so much had changed. So much was heavy. So much was sadness. So much was people being upset. And again, with justification. But the people who stuck it through and showed up, I think there's a special place for them in the history books. And I think there's a special place for them within the memories that were created that weekend. And I also want to say that the broadcast and the participation, the comments online, like we always expect a lot of candor and negative feedback and strong opinions. That comes with any human involvement and bot involvement also. And I think that that's something that we had to recognize that was actually really good this year. Again, feedback. Everything that is associated with CrossFit is driven on feedback. And we had some great feedback this year. The viewership was up, ironically enough. And of course, you would assume that because less people were there in person, maybe that's why it was due. But I think a lot of people were just really curious. A lot of people were very skeptical. And I'm talking people that have been CrossFitters for 5 to 10 plus years. And I hope that what was put out there as a product from a broadcast perspective, from a programming perspective, from an athlete performance perspective, and also from the footage and the content that is being produced based on the community's involvement there for those that did show up, it was amazing. The vibes at the close were amazing. So I wanted to get on here and I wanted to inspire not just everybody who showed up, because I think you're in there, right? We're in for a ride. This year is not going to be much different. And I don't want to alarm you. I don't want to scare the community, but I want to have a harsh reality of like, look, we don't know who's going to take over this thing. We don't know what their visions are going to be. Not my job to sit around and wait. It's my job to make CrossFit what I want it to be and what I believe that it is at its roots. And it's my job to teach it to as many people as I can and to let the impact on my life and in my family and on my leadership and on my ability to learn, to teach, to see, correct, to guide my nutrition, understanding, and choices, and affect my metabolism and my chronic health long-term and the global fitness that I build in my life and the lives of others around me. Like, that's my job. And I want to be a light to people. And I want everyone in our community to continue to be a light. And I just want everyone to remember that regardless of who buys CrossFit, regardless of what they choose to do with the name CrossFit, that you can represent and be CrossFit the way that it should be. I know there's a lot of speculation, and I'm optimistic. I'm praying for good leadership, selfless ownership. And I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if that's a thing because I understand that all businesses have to make money. But I believe that if someone purchases this company that has a greater view for public health, for mental health, for the generations of humans that are growing up battling a fight against chronic disease and statistics that are literally against them, and then looking around us, realizing that there's so many lives that can be saved through this methodology, through the communities that are built and born within all the pockets of the world, that they'll have a really great vision. And so I'm optimistic for that. Um, I'm here for the long term, and I want you to be here for the long term as well. This is an episode where I just wanted to hop on and kind of break the seal a little bit, getting back on the mic and rant just a little. So the next episode will be a little bit different, as I've got a long list of questions from Instagram. I came to the Instagrams just the other day saying that I'm going to get back on the podcast, and we got a lot of questions. So I'm going to jump into some of those here in just a minute. Try to keep them as short as I can and concise in answers, but hopefully to bring you a lot of value. I hope this one gives you an idea of where my mind is and where my heart is as we enter this off season of 2025, and even looking forward into 2026 as CrossFit and Mr. Castro has already announced the dates for the Open. That allows us to all be very excited. As I'm recording this now, this is the weekend of the age group CrossFit Games, which is amazing. I've got an athlete there, Sheena Hammer, in the 40 to 44. Shout out Sheena, keep doing your thing. As of now, she's sitting in second place after one event, and we got a lot of tests left. So nonetheless, I'm very excited. I'm optimistic, and I'm hopeful for the future. Shout out to all the real ones. We never left.